Blair was Prime Minister for a decade from 1997, 2007. He is responsible for moving the Labour Party from the left towards the centre ground of British politics, resulting in an unprecedented 3 consecutive terms in power for the party. Anthony Blair was born on May 6, 1953 in Edinburgh. Educated at Oxford University, he became a barrister and in 1983 was elected Labour Member of Parliament for Sedgefield. He soon became identified with a group of self-conscious party modernisers, which also included Gordon Brown and Peter Mandelson, who sought to make Labour more acceptable to the electorate by repudiating its association with the trade unions, unilateral nuclear disarmament, public ownership, and high taxation. In 1994, following the unexpected death of then-leader John Smith, Blair became Labour Party leader after Gordon Brown stood aside to avoid splitting the pro-modernising vote in the leadership ballot. Blair quickly attained unquestioned authority as leader, which was further underlined by Labour's landslide victory in the 1997 general election. At 43, he was the youngest premier since Lord Liverpool in 1812. He attempted to promote a youthful, modern image of Britain symbolized by Britpop, Brit art, and the Millennium Dome. Some of his policies were genuinely radical, especially the constitutional reforms that delivered a measure of self-government to Wales and Scotland. But a promise to reform public services proved less easy to implement, and a controversial reliance on private enterprise initiatives did not seem to deliver the expected improvements in transport, education, or health care. Blair was re-elected in 2001. His second term was more troubled, being dominated by a rift with his former ally, Chancellor Gordon Brown. In 2002, 2003 Blair risked his personal authority by supporting the U.S. government's war on terror, despite serious disquiet in his own party and among the wider public. Blair was re-elected in 2005, in an unprecedented third consecutive term for a Labour Prime Minister. The same year he chaired the G8 summit at Gleneagles and focused on 2 issues, climate change and Africa, which had become increasing priorities for him. Blair stepped down in June 2007 and was succeeded as Prime Minister by Gordon Brown. Blair and his allies succeeded in making the Labour Party electable again, after almost 2 decades in opposition. To his critics, this achievement was made at the cost of abandoning the party's principles. To his supporters, he was a man willing to risk public unpopularity in the pursuit of policies, most notably the war in Iraq, that he felt were morally justified. Anthony, Tony, Blair, served as Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland from 1997 to 2007, the only Labour leader in the party's 100-year history to win 3 consecutive elections. He had never been to the United States prior to participating in the International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP, in the 1980s and was able to get a glimpse of an entirely different side of the United States of America. During his time in Downing Street, Blair implemented a major domestic reform agenda, transforming the UK's education and healthcare sectors. Overall crime was reduced by a third, and the first ever national minimum wage was introduced. As Prime Minister, Blair was also a central figure on the global stage. He helped bring peace to Northern Ireland, securing the historic Good Friday Agreement in 1998. He was a passionate advocate of an interventionist foreign policy, creating the Department for International Development, tripling the UK's foreign aid to Africa, and introducing landmark legislation to tackle climate change. Since leaving public office, Tony Blair established the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change to address some of the challenges in the world today, believing that real leadership has never been more necessary or more difficult. Currently, teams from the Institute are directly supporting leaders across the globe in their fight against COVID-19, delivering analysis and advice to help countries mitigate the economic impact, to harness the power of technology and to better position themselves for the rebuilding to come. He is a British politician who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1997 to 2007 and leader of the Labour Party from 1994 to 2007. He was leader of the opposition from 1994 to 1997 and held various shadow cabinet posts from 1987 to 1994. Blair was Member of Parliament, MP, for Sedgefield from 1983 to 2007, and was Special Envoy of the Quartet on the Middle East from 2007 to 2015. He is the second longest-serving Prime Minister in post-war British history after Margaret Thatcher, the longest-serving Labour politician to have held the office, and the first and only person to date to lead the party to 3 consecutive general election victories. Blair attended the independent school Fettes College, studied law at St John's College, Oxford, and qualified as a barrister. He became involved in the Labour Party and was elected to the House of Commons in 1983 for the Sedgefield constituency in County Durham. As a backbencher, Blair supported moving the party to the political centre of British politics. He was appointed to Neil Kinnock's shadow cabinet in 1988 and was appointed shadow Home Secretary by John Smith in 1992. Following Smith's death in 1994, Blair won a leadership election to succeed him. As leader, Blair began a historic rebranding of the party, which became known as New Labour. Blair became the youngest Prime Minister of the 20th century after his party won a landslide victory in the 1997 general election. During his first term, Blair enacted constitutional reforms and significantly increased public spending on healthcare and education while also introducing controversial market-based reforms in these areas. In addition, Blair saw the introduction of a minimum wage, tuition fees for higher education, constitutional reforms such as devolution in Scotland and Wales, an extensive expansion of LGBT+ rights in the UK, and significant progress in the Northern Ireland peace process with the passing of the landmark Good Friday Agreement. On foreign policy, Blair oversaw British interventions in Kosovo in 1999 and Sierra Leone in 2000, which were generally perceived to be successful. Blair won a second term after Labour won a second landslide victory in the 2001 general election. 3 months into his second term, Blair's premiership was shaped by the 9/11 terrorist attacks, resulting in the start of the War on Terror. Blair supported the foreign policy of the George W. Bush administration by ensuring that the British armed forces participated in the war in Afghanistan to overthrow the Taliban, destroy al-Qaeda, and capture Osama bin Laden. Blair supported the 2003 invasion of Iraq and had the British armed forces participate in the Iraq War, on the inaccurate beliefs that Saddam Hussein's regime possessed weapons of mass destruction and developed ties with al-Qaeda. The invasion of Iraq was particularly controversial, as it attracted widespread public opposition and 139 of Blair's own MPs opposed it. As a result, he faced criticism over the policy itself and the circumstances of the decision. The Iraq Inquiry Report of 2016 gave a damning assessment of Blair's role in the Iraq War. As the casualties of the Iraq War mounted, Blair was accused of misleading Parliament, and his popularity dropped dramatically. Blair won a third term after Labour won a third election victory in 2005, in part thanks to the UK's strong economic performance, but with a substantially reduced majority, due to the UK's involvement in the Iraq War. During his third term, Blair pushed for more systemic public sector reform and brokered a settlement to restore power sharing to Northern Ireland. He had a surge in popularity at the time of terrorist bombings of London of July 2005, but by the spring of 2006 faced significant difficulties, most notably with scandals over failures by the Home Office to deport illegal immigrants. Amid the Cash for Honours scandal, Blair was interviewed 3 times as Prime Minister, though only as a witness and not under caution. The Afghanistan and Iraq wars continued, and in 2006, Blair announced he would resign within a year. He resigned the party leadership on June 24, 2007 and as Prime Minister on June 27, and was succeeded by Gordon Brown, his Chancellor. After leaving office, Blair gave up his seat and was appointed Special Envoy of the Quartet on the Middle East, a diplomatic post he held until 2015. He has been the executive chairman of the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change since 2016 and has made occasional political interventions, and has been a key influence on Keir Starmer. In 2009, Blair was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by George W. Bush. He was made a Knight Companion of the Garter by Queen Elizabeth II in 2022. At various points in his premiership, Blair was among both the most popular and most unpopular politicians in British history. As Prime Minister, he achieved the highest recorded approval ratings during his first few years in office but also one of the lowest ratings during and after the Iraq War. Blair is usually rated as above average in historical rankings and public opinion of British prime ministers. With his parents basing their family in Durham, Blair attended the Chichester School from 1961 to 1966. Aged 13, he was sent to spend his school term time boarding at Fettes College in Edinburgh from 1966 to 1971. According to Blair, he hated his time at Fettes. His teachers were unimpressed with him. His biographer, John Rentall, reported that all the teachers I spoke to when researching the book said he was a complete pain in the backside and they were very glad to see the back of him. Blair reportedly modeled himself on Mick Jagger, lead singer of the Rolling Stones. Leaving Fettes College at the age of 18, Blair next spent a gap year in London working as a rock music promoter. In 1972, at the age of 19, Blair matriculated at St. John's College, Oxford, reading jurisprudence for 3 years. As a student, he played guitar and sang in a rock band called Ugly Rumours, and performed stand-up comedy. He was influenced by fellow student and Anglican priest Peter Thomson, who awakened his religious faith and left-wing politics. While at Oxford, Blair has stated that he was briefly a Trotskyist, after reading the first volume of Isaac Deutscher's biography of Leon Trotsky, which was like a light going on. He graduated from Oxford at the age of 22 in 1975 with a second-class honours BA in jurisprudence. In 1975, while Blair was at Oxford, his mother Hazel died aged 52 of thyroid cancer, which greatly affected him. After Oxford, Blair served his barrister pupillage at Lincoln's Inn, where he was called to the bar. He met his future wife, Cherie Booth, at the chambers founded by Derry Irvine, who was to be Blair's first Lord Chancellor, 11 King's Bench Walk Chambers. Since childhood, Blair has been a fan of Newcastle United Football Club. Blair joined the Labour Party shortly after graduating from Oxford in 1975. In the early 1980s, he was involved in Labour politics in Hackney South and Shoreditch, where he aligned himself with the soft left of the party. Blair became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on May 2, 1997, aged 43. He was the youngest person to reach that office since Lord Liverpool became Prime Minister aged 42 in 1812. He was also the first Prime Minister born after the Second World War and the accession of Elizabeth II to the throne. With victories in 1997, 2001, and 2005, Blair was the Labour Party's longest-serving Prime Minister, and the first person, and the only one, to date, to lead the party to 3 consecutive general election victories. One of Blair's first acts as Prime Minister was to replace the then twice-weekly 15-minute sessions of Prime Minister's Questions held on Tuesdays and Thursdays with a single 30-minute session on Wednesdays. In addition to PMQs, Blair held monthly press conferences at which he fielded questions from journalists and, from 2002, broke precedent by agreeing to give evidence twice yearly before the most senior Commons Select Committee, the Liaison Committee. Blair was sometimes perceived as paying insufficient attention both to the views of his own cabinet colleagues and to those of the House of Commons. His style was sometimes criticized as not that of a prime minister and head of government, which he was, but of a president and head of state, which he was not. Blair was accused of excessive reliance on spin. He was the first UK Prime Minister to have been formally questioned by police, though not under caution, while still in office. Blair's apparent refusal to set a date for his departure was criticised by the British press and members of Parliament. It has been reported that a number of cabinet ministers believed that Blair's timely departure from office would be required to be able to win a fourth election. Some ministers viewed Blair's announcement of policy initiatives in September 2006 as an attempt to draw attention away from these issues. After the death of John Smith in 1994, Blair and his close colleague Gordon Brown, they shared an office at the House of Commons, were both seen as possible candidates for the party leadership. They agreed not to stand against each other, it is said, as part of a supposed Blair-Brown pact. Brown, who considered himself the senior of the two, understood that Blair would give way to him. Opinion polls soon indicated, however, that Blair appeared to enjoy greater support among voters. Their relationship in power became so turbulent that, it was reported, the Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, often had to act as marriage guidance counselor. During the 2010 election campaign, Blair publicly endorsed Gordon Brown's leadership, praising the way he had handled the financial crisis. On June 27, 2007, Blair officially resigned as Prime Minister after 10 years in office, and he was officially confirmed as Middle East envoy for the United Nations, European Union, United States, and Russia. Blair originally indicated that he would retain his parliamentary seat after his resignation as Prime Minister came into effect. However, on being confirmed for the Middle East role, he resigned from the Commons by taking up an office of profit. President George W. Bush had preliminary talks with Blair to ask him to take up the envoy role. White House sources stated that both Israel and the Palestinians had signed up to the proposal. In May 2008, Blair announced a new plan for peace and for Palestinian rights, based heavily on the ideas of the Peace Valley Plan. Blair resigned as envoy in May 2015. In November 2007, Blair launched the Tony Blair Sports Foundation, which aims to increase childhood participation in sports activities, especially in the northeast of England, where a larger proportion of children are socially excluded, and to promote overall health and prevent childhood obesity. On May 30, 2008, Blair launched the Tony Blair Faith Foundation as a vehicle for encouraging different faiths to join in promoting respect and understanding, as well as working to tackle poverty. Reflecting Blair's own faith but not dedicated to any particular religion, the foundation aims to show how faith is a powerful force for good in the modern world. The foundation will use its profile and resources to encourage people of faith to work together more closely to tackle global poverty and conflict, says its mission statement. In February 2009, he applied to set up a charity called the Tony Blair Africa Governance Initiative. The application was approved in November 2009. Blair's foundation hit controversy in October 2012, when news emerged that it was taking on unpaid interns. In December 2016, Blair created the Tony Blair Institute to promote global outlooks by governments and organizations. In September 2023, former Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin joined him as a strategic advisor on political leaders' reform programs in the institute. Blair married Cherie Booth on March 29, 1980. They have 4 children, Ewan, Nikki, Catherine, and Leo. In May 2007, Blair was invested as a paramount chief by the chiefs and people of the village of Mahira in Sierra Leone. The honor was bestowed upon him in recognition of the role played by his government in the Sierra Leone Civil War. On May 22, 2008, Blair received an honorary law doctorate from Queen's University Belfast, alongside Bertie Ahern, for distinction in public service and roles in the Northern Ireland peace process. On January 13, 2009, Blair was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President George W. Bush. Bush stated that Blair was given the award in recognition of exemplary achievement and to convey the utmost esteem of the American people, and cited Blair's support for the War on Terror and his role in achieving peace in Northern Ireland as 2 reasons for justifying his being presented with the award. On February 16, 2009, Blair was awarded the Dan David Prize by Tel Aviv University for exceptional leadership and steadfast determination in helping to engineer agreements and forge lasting solutions to areas in conflict. He was awarded the prize in May 2009. On July 8, 2010, Blair was awarded the Order of Freedom by President Fatmir Secdio of Kosovo. As Blair is considered to have been instrumental in ending the conflict in Kosovo, some boys born in the country following the war have been given the name Tony or Tony Blair. On September 13, 2010, Blair was awarded the Liberty Medal at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was presented by former President Bill Clinton, and is awarded annually to men and women of courage and conviction who strive to secure the blessings of liberty to people around the globe. On December 31, 2021, it was announced that the Queen had appointed Blair a Knight Companion of the Order of the Garter, KG. Blair had reportedly indicated when he left office that he did not want the traditional knighthood or peerage bestowed on former prime ministers. A petition cited his role in the Iraq War as a reason to remove the knighthood and garnered more than 1 million signatures. He received his Garter insignia on June 10, 2022 from the Queen during an audience at Windsor Castle. Thank you for watching this video.